You've watched Making a Murderer. You've watched the Ted Bundy tapes. You've seen who the president is, and yet you're still surprised and outraged on social media when celebrities turn out to be human and fallible. So, you probably need more true crime documentaries, because the 834 that are on Netflix aren't enough to satiate those weird feelings of bloodlust and perversion that you know lurk deep within you, but you daren't ever really admit it, even to yourself. Well, don't worry. Radio Flange Goblet presents the Alan Gein Gacy tapes. So, you're the second cousin, twice removed step-nephew of Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy.
That's right, yes. But you can call me Alan.
So, how is that even possible?
Well, they told me to say it.
Who did?
Well, them over there, the producers, they said to say it.
Alright, understand?
Right, yeah. Let's start again, shall we? Oh, okay. Am I still Alan?
Yeah, you're still Alan. So, you're the second cousin, twice removed step-nephew of Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy.
That's right, yes. Alan's the name, Alan's the game, I always say.
What game? Is that some sort of hideously depraved act where you skin your victims with an Allen wrench and then eat their nasal cavities with a cake fork?
No. Why would you say that? It's just a colloquialism.
Right. Yes, of course. Okay, right. Alan lives alone, well, except for a sheepdog named Peregrine and a pet gerbil called Simon that may or may not be dead. The whole time we were there on his 10-acre ranch home in Norfolkshire on the Twinge in England, we never once saw him move. Alan shows us his collection of early 20th century porcelain figurines of characters from A Midsummer Night's Dream and an action figure of Iron Man that seems to be placed in a suggestive pose with an old packet of something called Mr. Lip King's Fruity Tarts. The house has a sinister air.
Oh, were you admiring my sofa doilies?
Oh, good God. What on earth is a sofa doily? That's not the gut skin of one of your victims, is it? Draped over an easy chair and used in sordid sex games with rodents.
Oh, bloody hell, no. That sounds disgusting. Who has one of those? That's atrocious. Is that an American thing?
No, I thought that maybe, anyway, what is a sofa doily?
It's a lacy piece of cotton you place by the headrests of your sofa. They are both decorative and help to reduce oily stains from hair products. I see you've got quite a gooey scalp yourself, what with all that gunk you have on your bonnet.
Ugh. Are you sizing my head up to murder me later and play some sort of satanic game of rugby or whatever it is you pervert Brits do?
No, I was noticing you put gel in your hair. Are you quite all right?
I'm fine. What's next?
Would you like to see my potting shed?
Ooh, that sounds sordid and juicy. Sure. Alan walks us over to a poorly constructed lean-to wooden shack in an outer field. The air is crisp and clear, yet a low mist is forming, and the growing sense of foreboding I feel cannot be quenched by Alan's seemingly cheery attitude and relatively middle-class normalcy.
Now just look at this Fisker's trowel. It's a real beauty. This trowel was given to me by the Flattersham Rotary and Gardening Club last year for having enormous root vegetables.
I noticed some of these tools are quite sharp.
Well, maybe some of the pruners, loppers, saws and shears, but if handled correctly and to the letter of the instructions as written down in the Whiffworth Lawn Almanac from 1896, you can come away from a nice day's gardening relatively unscathed. Are you really not going to show me anything gruesome? What do you mean?
Well, our listeners don't tune in to hear about sofa doilies and fish's trowels. They want the filth, the gore, the mutilation, the intrigue, the disguises, the repressed childhood memories of abuse, the weird and confusing religious beliefs, the luring of young, prone, nubile tweens into compromising situations with novelty bath mats. Not, ooh, I have a nice hat, or would you like to see my collection of ceramic thimbles?
Oh, you should have said earlier. Let's go to the caravan. That's where I secretly videotape myself hacksawing woodland animals in half to use as a contraceptive when I'm buggering a dead nun's skull.
Oh, that's more like it. You lead the way. And part 2 of Caravan of Bloody Nunskulls will end next week at the earlier time of 7 p.m. so we can get that all-important 11 to 18 demographic. And now on Radio Flange Goblet, a show that has no clear demographic or indeed any clear point. It is, as always, the After Movie Diner.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
On Van Dam Street, in the pouring rain, they watched his window with eyes of flame. Inside, time was getting short. Cigarettes were being smoked to extinction. He violently wished not to have to go to the merry gentleman in the street below. Deep inside, he knew nobody chooses the hour of their damnation. He looked at his dog asleep on the bed and softly scratched its dreaming head. Deep inside, it was shouting down the moon in a war of attrition. But it stirred as he quietly dragged his shadow down the stairs that sagged. Inside, his dog put its face to the window and bared teeth that shone like salvation. The tumbling glass flickered eyes of flame on Van Dam Street in the pouring rain.
Are You Hurtling Towards God Knows What? A brand new book of poetry by J.E.A. Wallace, available now on Amazon. And we've made it easy for you. You can click through the banner link on aftermoviediner.com.
Go for it. All right, hello and welcome to this week's After Movie Diner.
After Movie Diner.
After Movie Diner, and in fact, this is the latest episode. I think you and I.
Yeah, this is like after dark. Well, it's always after dark, but it's like midnight. So after Movie Diner midnight.
It's almost it's the midnight session. So let's get sexy. Jim and I are getting down to our.
Get nude.
Yeah, we're gonna get sexy and sweet chick on Flatbush Avenue. We're not even in a diner. It's not even.
It's some spiced pecan waffles.
Yeah. Oh, hello there. You remember those adverts that used to come on TV for like sex phone lines long before there was the internet?
8, 9,
One, big knockers.
Big knockers.
Yeah, whatever it was. But like there would always be a woman who would be like, oh, I'm just waiting for you at the other end of this phone line in negligee or whatever it was.
It's kind of sad, wasn't it?
It was kind of sad and pathetic. Because you know that whoever was the model, which was already pretty sad and pathetic, is not the woman you were talking to.
You'd have to say that the internet has killed many things.
Yeah.
As we were talking about on the way over here, like publishing for one.
Yeah.
But if one of the things it's killed is the sad adverts late at night going, why don't you call someone if you're lonely? Have a call. It's
Have
like,
a call.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. Now that I think about it, maybe lonely people needed chat lines to stop throwing themselves off bridges.
Right.
Maybe there's like a plague of bridge throwing offs since the internet took. Well, no, because now they're all arguing on film forums.
I also think that the internet has what it's killed more than it's called phone sex
Welcome
lines.
to two old men talk about the internet.
But no, because like phone sex lines still exist, right? And like,
do they?
Well, I know.
Are they still a thing?
I don't know, but I imagine they're like, FaceTime or whatever, like the equivalent.
Oh yeah, I guess that could work.
The equivalent. I don't know. But what I'm saying, well, they're like
8, 9,
video
8.
chats.
Would you like to see my boobs on Skype?
Right. Whatever.
Skype boobs.
Skype boobs. I think you've got a winner there. Skype boobs. No.
No one has thought of this.
But like,
we are definitely the first people to think of Skype
and boobs.
Boobs? Is there some money to be made here?
But in the past,
before Skype boobs.
Before Skype boobs.
It's like Skynet in Terminator.
Yeah, Sky boobs. In the past.
Maybe they tried to distract Skynet with boobs.
Okay,
like, the apocalypse would never have happened.
Right, well, no, it would have been an apocalypse, but it would be apocalypse. Tits. Apocalypse. Apocalypse.
It doesn't quite work, does it? It feels like it should.
Well, tits feel like they should.
Apocalypse on tits.
Yeah, apocalypse on tits.
Apocalypse tits.
Apocalypse tits. Apocalypse tits. Apocalypse tits.
Someone has made like a porn parody of Apocalypse tits.
Apocalypse tits now.
Apocalypse tits now.
Yeah. But what it's killed is it's killed the fine art of suggestion. Now,
do you feel that
the
phone lines would be filed under fine art of suggestion?
No, I'm talking about the adverts for them. Like now, if there's adverts for porn on the internet, I'm sure it's just like, you know...
Porn on the internet? Right here, fatty. Click.
Right? I'm sure it's just like, here's my vagina, what else do you want to know?
Can I have some money?
But back then, it had to be more like, ooh, I'm wearing negligee and lying on a couch in Burminster. Why don't you give me a call?
I don't want anyone to use Burminster as an erotic come-on, except possibly like Victorian England, where like Burminster was like a hotbed of tits. You know what I mean? A hotbed of tits and tits activity.
I used to play bass for hotbed of tits.
It sounds like a euphemism. Like, I've been to Burminster. And what I mean is, I've been ogling tits down the West End.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So anyway, welcome to the...
welcome to the After Movie Night.
Oh, look at that.
Wow, brilliant.
That is a bucket of chicken.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Quite literal.
Awesome.
Lovely, thanks.
Lovely.
Butter, mixed berry, mixed herb, lemon honey, if you want to try with your waffles or your biscuit, okay?
Thank you very much, lovely.
Hot sauce?
Do we know? I don't think so. Do you want hot sauce?
I don't need hot sauce.
I think we're all set. Thank you very much, thank you.
Wow, this biscuit looks amazing.
To be fair, this is expensive, but wow, it looks really worth it.
But thank you for making me feel bad that the only thing in my neighbourhood still open is expensive. That was a nice way to make me feel shitty about my life.
What?
Damn it.
I guess I was expecting there was a chicken waffle joint, but to be cheaper. But I was also expecting it to be worse.
Right.
On balance, I think I'd rather the food was good and pay diner prices for it. We're not paying any more than we would in a diner.
Right.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Oh, don't forget, dude, there is maple syrup.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm not actually going to ruin the waffles with the syrup. I'm just going to pour it on the chicken. I'm living in a country, I'm pouring maple syrup directly onto my breaded fried chicken.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea.
It's an amazing idea. I'm going to put some on my biscuit.
Good idea, Mel, sorry.
And by biscuit, I don't mean arse.
Yeah, but you do, though.
I do, though. In Burminster.
Anyway, should we talk about the film we're here to talk about?
Yeah, so we are Jon Cross and Jim Wallace.
Hello.
The men behind the After Movie Diner.
The men behind the men.
And that's awful. We're not behind men.
No, we're behind the men. The men of the movie industry. The movers and the shakers.
Oh, you will not let me finish the
And we're
sentence.
behind them going, are you sure?
Yeah, you sure that's what you want to do. But we are the men behind the After Movie Diner. And tonight we're talking about the man who killed Hitler and then killed the Bigfoot.
And then the Bigfoot. The man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
Okay. Which stars Sam Elliott.
Yeah. Ron
Livingston. Larry Miller.
Sam Elliott is an old man in a small town in America.
In Massachusetts.
Through the medium of flashbacks, we find out that he left behind the woman he loved to go and fight in the war and ended up as in a plot to assassinate Hitler successfully. He has become since disillusioned with that because even though he killed Hitler, it didn't end the war. The war carried on. And years and years and years later, he's found again by the government, who asked him a favour. He is immune to a deadly plague being carried by Bigfoot in the wilds of Canada. And if he is not able to track down and hunt and kill Bigfoot, they're going to have to drop a nuclear bomb on Canada to take him out to stop the spread of this plague. And so Sam Elliott reluctantly agrees to go back to work for the government and go after Bigfoot.
And he had vowed to never kill another living thing.
Yeah. How was that? Usually I forget stuff.
No, that was perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah, but what's funny about explaining the plot, much like explaining the plot to really the closest movie that there is to this movie, although their tones are wildly different, and that is Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
When you explain the plot of Bubba Hotep, Elvis and a black guy in a wheelchair in an old rest home in Texas who believes he's JFK team up to fight the mummy who wears cowboy guns. You kind of go, well, that sounds ridiculous. Why would I watch that? Similarly with this, the idea of a pulp novel movie where a guy assassinates Hitler and then years later is asked by the government to kill Bigfoot.
Yeah, great, thanks very much.
To kill Bigfoot, or they're going to have to nuke Canada. It's like a similarly ridiculous plot. But what I really, really, really loved about the movie is first of all, it plays the whole thing straight. Secondly, the movie is about so much more than any of that. It's about love, loss, heroism, aging, America, the nature of war, the nature of killing, the nature of ideas. Like Sam Elliott gives this amazing soliloquy.
It's such a good bit
about like the fact that Hitler had a bunch of lookalikes, and the fact that like various plots were trying to kill the lookalikes, but it didn't matter.
That felt so real.
Yeah.
Like that, they got him, and then the third one, a womanizer, a drunk, and a coward. You know, definitely a coward at the end. Really, really, I totally believed it.
Right. He killed the real Hitler, but like you said, the idea of Hitler, the image of Hitler, you know, he says, why do you think he had that hair and that mustache? Like,
it's a costume.
It's a costume. It allowed the idea to propagate, you know. But it's all played incredibly well, incredibly seriously, incredibly emotionally. I mean, there are moments in this movie, believe it or not, where Sam Elliott's performance is downright fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Now, previously to this, Sam Elliott is obviously known for Roadhouse and The Big Lebowski and various other kind of cult shakedown or whatever. Various like cult movies where he is either a bit part and or part of an ensemble and or part of a double act. He's rarely, if ever, the leading part. Recently, he was given a role called The Hero, which was all about him as a fading Western star, trying to like regain one last bit of life and composure, and sort of had a kind of lost in translation vibe to it. But it was, I hate to say it, a horribly empty film. I reviewed it for the for the website. A horribly empty film. A horrible film. A film that kind of resorted to just like stoner gags. A film where you knew exactly kind of where it was going and what it was trying to say. There was no real depth to it, and no real like conceit to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sort of fell into a lot of cliches. Not to say that Sam Elliott and the cast, Nick Offerman and various other people weren't excellent in it. They were. But it was just something that I'd seen 100 times before and didn't really speak to it. This, on the other hand, even though, like I say, it is comparable to Bubba Hotep in the fact that it is a pulp B-movie idea that is told seriously and speaks to...
with a tinge of melancholy.
And with a tinge of melancholy, and speaks to the psychology of aging in America, as well as heroism then and heroism now. This one is, in terms of Sam Elliott's performance and in terms of what it's saying about the things it's trying to talk about, is way, way, way beyond the hero. But probably, sadly, won't receive anywhere near like the critical plaudits, whereas it should. It's shot by a fantastic cinematographer. It's got special effects by a guy who was a pioneer in effects for many, many years.
The director of Silent Running.
Yeah, it's produced by Lucky McKee, who is another one of these low-budget filmmakers who's been working under the radar, but still managed to produce some really interesting movies. And the whole thing just hangs together really well. Is acted so nicely, has some genuine character and some genuine script points. And I really can't, it's so far my movie of 2019, and it would be a hard one to beat. How do you feel about it, Ben?
I felt the same way. What it reminded me of, I don't want to be like, actually it reminded me of the sort of thing I might write a poem about. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I've got a certain thing about, it's got a bit of a ridiculous conceit, and yet it's about what does it mean to be human within that story. Like all stories, no matter how ridiculous a conceit they are come out of something real. Like the idea of wanting to kill Hitler. Like they've made, serious Hollywood blockbuster movies about the plots to kill Hitler.
Valkyrie.
Right. So they're clearly hoping in those movies to, tap into something real about human nature. And just because you tie it to Bigfoot and you make it a bit pulpy and it's low budget, doesn't mean there's not things to explore there, which there clearly are. But there's even beyond all that, even beyond the fact that it's melancholy and it's beautiful and it's really engaging and Sam Elliott's amazing, there's shots in the film, there's bits in it where I'm never going to forget this. Like, if I'd seen this film when I was 17, then, bits of it would be I'd be trying to emulate them all through my life. When he's driving in the car, and he's talking to his dog, and the dog's, hanging over the back seat, you know what I mean? Just sort of looking around and having a chat with him. It's all I want to do in my life now is drive around a little town in a car with my dog in the back seat like that. That's where I want to be, But at the same time, it's so sad. And the bits, even though it's hitting beats, the bit where he gets menaced at the beginning and it turns out he's a badass, that's a beat from a genre film. The bit where he's trying to propose and he keeps getting knocked up, it keeps getting interrupted, that's a beat from a genre movie. But they don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm being manipulated. I'm just caught up in the emotion of what it would be like to be him in that moment, where he's able to let the photograph of his lost love be burned, but he won't let his car get stolen. And that is still keeping me up. But I still don't know why. Why would he let that happen and not the car? There's no answer, no obvious answer. Well, I'm thinking about it later.
There is, because of what he digs up from the graveyard later.
Why would you mean?
There are some things he can let go, but there is one thing he can never let go.
Right. Okay.
So he knows that whereas, yes, that photograph gets burned, he still has his memory box somewhere else. We don't know that at the time.
Yeah, but that's the implication, that's what it is. But it seems to me to be more of a general symbol for his regrets. And it seems that the whole movie is really, if I had to put my finger on what it's about a man, an old man, coming to terms with the things that he regrets, learning to live with himself, And it's I feel like we're selling it short. It's so fun. It's like a fun watch. It's funny.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's not that many films you can watch and go, this is cool. And for that to be true, and for it not to be from 30 years ago. It's happening now, and unselfconsciously, this is cool.
Yeah.
I like this. I could watch this again. I definitely want to... the first thing I did with the film was what's this guy done before? The fact he's done nothing before is, glorious. Who the fuck starts off with this?
Do you know what he's done before?
What?
He did a short film that was all with life-size puppets
Okay. All right, well, I guess that would make sense. So he's made something that these people, Turnbull and all the rest of it, saw and went, this guy's got something special, I could do something with him.
Yeah,
that's what he's got.
He basically, the crew that made the movie, he collected over the last 12 years. So, like, one person comes on board, and the two of them are like, oh, we're going to try and shop it around. And then, like, when that doesn't work, and he's sticking to his guns, and he won't make it, there was obviously some studios are like, we'll make it more about Bigfoot, and we'll produce it. And other studios are like, can you make it more just about, like, Sam Elliott sitting looking out to sea like the hero? The hero got a lot of critical praise. Can we just do it that way?
Yeah, I guess I can see that. And he
was like, no, this is the script I want to do.
Yeah, it would be an easy one for a studio to look at and go, yeah, just change this, tuck this in, and let's, like, make it one genre.
Right. Yeah. Like, listen to the interview, but, like, if I tell you that rather than his touchstones being some B-movie from the 80s, that his touchstone is Old Man and the Sea. Like that, and some other novels, but that's an example.
Right.
But that kind of tells you, like, where he's coming from. And the fact that instead of sitting there and going, oh, I'm a big fan of Reanimator or whatever.
Right.
Or even saying I'm a big fan of Hammer horror films or whatever.
Right.
His touchstone was pulp novels.
Right.
And the conversation I had with him was very much that the thing people underestimate about genre work, whether it's novels or movies, is more often than not they say way more about humanity if they're well done, if they're well written, than most so-called Oscar-worthy fucking...
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are the ones that tend to stand the test of time. There's a reason why people, still talk about Star Wars and Star Trek. Like, those things resonate with people for a reason.
Right.
Because pulpy things, there's a freedom to read between the lines, because the lines are so clear that you can talk about other stuff. You don't have to be like, hello, welcome to the cinema. We're here to talk about, mortality and the futility of existence. It's like, well, okay,
right.
But I know all that. But it's like, hey, we're to make a film about a guy who killed Hitler, and then he killed Bigfoot. Are you in? Yeah, that sounds fun. Sit down, and you come out and go, I've learned so much about existence and hopelessness and hope and love and all the, that's how to make a film. For this to be the guy's first movie, even if he never makes another film, right? Even if he toils away on the project number 2 forever, or goes off and writes a book or whatever it is he's going to do, he could be really proud that he made this, because it's not just great. It's obviously a vision, and what's also great about it, it's not like a half-assed one, like he had to cut corners. I mean, I'm sure there were budgetary constraints, but it's not like, I didn't feel like bits were cut out, or corners were cut, or that he had to please anybody. He got to make the film he wanted to make, and it hangs together. It's not even just that, too, it's not just about, let's get the script I want, because lots of people get to make the film they want, and it's garbage, and they look at it afterwards and they go, even if that's the film I wanted to make, and I got my way, and everything went right, it's garbage, right?
Right.
But to have that vision, to want to achieve something, and to use this script and these people and this idea to try and get to that place, and then fucking get there, that's an achievement.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you loved it like I did.
Yeah, man.
I absolutely loved it. It's so devoid of... It's not art. It's not arty. It's not pretentious. It's not knowing.
It's not arch.
It's not arch. It's not knowing. It's not condescending or patronizing. It feels, for a movie about the guy who killed Hitler and killed Bigfoot, it feels so fucking authentic.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to go off on a little rant here, but when you think of someone else who likes to believe or gets a lot of praise for being so-called a great writer, but writing within the genre thing and doing surprising shit, i.e. Tarantino. Or Jarmusch, but Jarmusch doesn't get Jarmusch gets a bunch of like strokey chin stuff. Tarantino gets full-blown fucking knob-sucking praise from damn near everybody in a way that's absolutely inexplicable. Because there's nothing more hollow and shallow and knowing than a Tarantino film. It's literally like you don't come out of it having learned anything about human nature whatsoever. You've learned that like you can write a bunch of dialogue that Tim Roth, Samuel L. Jackson, and Kurt Russell can say very well, but it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Django Unchained says fuck all about racism or about the South or about America or about human nature or about anything. Inglourious Basterds says fuck all about World War II, about violence, about humanity, about any of it. And The Hateful Eight says, equally fuck. Like, none of it says anything about anything. Whereas a movie called The Man Who Killed Hitler, Then the Bigfoot, for it to, and we're both, alright, we're pushing middle age, but at the same time, like,
I got heart?
We don't. No, I'm older, especially after this bucket of fried chicken.
Yeah.
But the fact that this speaks to me in such a deep, passionate, interesting way, and I'm so glad you said it as well, because it is like one of your poems, or it is like a Mountain Goat song, or it is like almost a Gordon Downey song, or whatever. Like it is those things where you talk about character and you talk about the minutiae of existence and you talk about what really matters within a genre setting, and you make it so that these old notions of heroism and patriotism and aging and whatever come from a very human place. They don't come from an artificial I think everyone assumes like, oh, someone sat down and wrote a bunch of myths and legends, and then humans just took them up, and that's what humans have sort of based their, quasi-moral standards on from there on in. People forget those myths and legends, those fairy tales, those stories, whatever they all come from humans to begin with. Like the humanity is writ large within them, whether it's Frankenstein's monster, or whether it's Grimm's fairy tales, or whether it's Captain Kirk and Stark.
Yeah.
Like, they all come from humanity, and they all come from a place of trying to understand humanity, and they're all genre work, and true genre work, the best genre work, and I don't give a fuck whether it's a Roger Corman movie about a killer octopus, or whether it's Star Wars. True genre stuff should talk about humanity, and if it isn't, it's pap. It's just gore for gore's sake, or monsters for monsters' sake, or tits for tits' sake. And look, there's a place for that, and that's absolutely fine. But so often we come out of a movie that is meant to be, a throwaway, a horror, sci-fi, action thriller, and we find something really deep and interesting in it. And while it's clear that with something like this particular movie, the humanity in it, the characters in it, the ideas in it are very purposefully written in it. They're not, they're there to be found if you want. That's what the movie is about. The movie is not about Bigfoot and not about Hitler. But even with that being the case, even with it being purposeful, it doesn't feel cheap. And it feels legitimate and authentic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's definitely something to be said for using the tropes of genre, using the tropes of good story, and examining what that does, because the heroism and the self-sacrifice and leading people to go off to war, like that now, to us now, that's like a distant memory, like what that must have been like. And so it's become generic. It's become just something in a movie.
But also now...
Wait, thank you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, finish.
But
But I have an interesting point.
Well, I didn't think you had a boring. I wasn't like going, no, I'm sorry. I'm predicting your point, and it's going to be super boring. So I'm going to cut you off before you get to be boring. In Birmingham. I guess what I'm saying is that those things at the time, people did have to leave loved ones behind and go off and fight for a war that they felt was for a higher cause, whether they've been lied to or manipulated or whatever. It's not really important. And at the time, that's what they did, and that would have led to things, I'm sure, exactly like happened in this movie. I'm sure people left their true loves behind, and either they died when they were at war, or it wasn't waiting for them when they got home. And for people at that time and in the years afterwards, that would have been very real and very vital and very human, and not just, you know, John Wayne in a movie or whatever, you know. And to be able to, the reason the genre works, or telling something in the genre, is it's not about, oh, we're not talking about that, the war stuff. We're talking about the relationships. We could talk about the war because that's why it was happening. There's no point in pretending that, oh, I'm going off to war, but really what's matter is it's like our human interaction. Yeah, but also the war, or he wouldn't be leaving to go off and fighting. Like, let's not pretend that notions of heroism, winning the day, and good triumphing over evil are not a massive part of what's happening here. You know what I mean? And just dismissing it as like, well, that's just generic stuff, I'm not interested in that, is like underselling the moment that people are having, like the truth of their own lives. Right. Like, people's lives aren't true because when they're observed, people go, oh, that's very interesting. People's lives are true because how they feel to them. And if you can tell an exciting story, right, and in the midst of that, especially when it's basically sort of like flashback, but equally his story in the present is like as interesting, if not more interesting than the Hitler story, frankly. To be able to draw people into that, to feel a part of that world, like you're in the car with him as he's driving down the street. Like it was in that barbershop when the guy was cutting his hair. Like it was all very immediate. Because that's how it feels, and that's how you come across those things. Thank you very much. Like that's why it's such a great film, because it's not just leaning on the genre thing and that'll do the job, and it's not just leaning on the relationship thing and the genre, that's fine. It's all as important as everything else. It's all part of this guy's story, and that's why it's so heartbreaking, and that's why Sam Elliott is so good at it, because everything that he's doing requires experience. Like, it's things he's lived and things he's continuing to live and regret every day. That's why that bit at the end of him taking the box is so important, because he's able to live with the box and therefore himself.
Right. And the idea of, well, there was so much in this movie that I felt like, although it was taking cues from stuff I'd seen before, I hadn't seen before.
But Baba Hotep's a good call for like the idea of a low budget, like ostensibly genre movie that is actually a slow, melancholy, thoughtful, and yet funny and human piece of work.
Yes, except that the big difference is this. At the end of Baba Hotep, Elvis realizes that he needs to be a hero. Like, he's realizing, what I need to do right now is stand up and be the person that I always pretended to be, but be it for real and save the people that I've come to know and love here at the restaurant. In this movie, it's more about the repercussions of heroism. It's more, what's interesting about this movie is it's, and your talk about, sorry.
Baby, that chicken's slow.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
We get told a lot of stories about veterans, or about war heroes, or about soldiers, or whatever. And I can't really go into all of them now, but you know what I mean. There's either the plucky, heroic lads, or there's the nervous, brave people on the boats being waved to goodbye, or whatever. And then there's the other stories of, if they come back from World War II, they come back as not conquered, but as victorious heroes. And if they come back from Vietnam, they are spat on by the hippies for being part of what they consider a negative and unjust war. And if they come back from Iraq or Afghanistan or any of the conflicts we've had in our lifetime, it's this weird mix of you have to be blindly patriotic and supportive, while at the same time the country itself ignores so much of what veterans go through. It ignores the PTSD, it ignores the homelessness a lot of them feel, it ignores the broken homes they often come back to, and it ignores sort of why they're out there in the first place and why a lot of people sign up in the first place. And we're not told those stories. And even in the American Snipers of the world and the whatever Benghazi films of the world or whatever, they're not examining what I feel this film did in a way that I hadn't seen before. When it came to whether you think the war is just or not, whether you think that you're a hero or not, to have a bigger picture, to have a bigger idea, to kind of look at the fact that the ideas didn't die, the fact that the world didn't change, the fact that this is one horrible Holocaust that could quite easily repeat. And one man feeling the weight of that, whereas in any other movie he would be seen as the victor for killing Hitler. And the way he expressed that was just so unlike anything I'd ever seen.
That's true, actually. There was a really nice thing where you felt like, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to go along with this. Like, there's a lot in movies, especially genre movies and genre TV, where you go, oh, okay, I guess even though you're Batman, you're going to be sad about being Batman, you know. Right. Or if you're Spider-Man, you're going to be like, oh, the pressure of being a Spider-Man. And you go, okay, well, I guess that's the story they want to tell, so I'm going to have to go along with that. So similarly, like, oh, he killed Hitler, so that's great. And if this is a slightly, over-the-top genre film, that would be cool. He's cool. And then he's being all melancholy and moping around. So you feel just a tiny bit of the movie, you feel a bit like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to go along with he's miserable even though he killed Hitler, and that's cool. Objectively, that's, a cool thing to go and kill Hitler. But then when he gives that speech and he talks about what it meant and how little it did, and all he did was kill him, was just the way it blows everything you thought about him and what's going on in this movie completely out of the water, as well as sets up the battle he's about to have with Bigfoot and himself for the rest of the movie. It's like, in one speech where he's talking about why, like, yeah, I killed Hitler, but it was like, now I feel bad, which is like, that's not, like, just from a writer's perspective, that is not an easy sell. In one monologue, I killed Hitler and now I feel bad. That is not an easy sell to an audience. And to not just pull it off, but to, like, punch people in the gut with how good that bit was. And it's him and Elliot and where it takes place in the movie, like, it's just perfectly positioned, like fulcrum in the middle of it.
It's also a comment in general about just as we idolize and put on a pedestal and make heroes of people who, especially in recent years, have been revealed to be maybe fallible and human, or downright assholes, depending on who we're talking about. We also tend to put our villains on a pedestal and raise up the man as the real problem. When he talks about killing Hitler, he says, I just killed a man. I didn't kill Hitler, like the way we all think about Hitler. I didn't kill that. I killed a human being with a head and legs and arm and whatever. That is a sentiment that I'd never heard before. And also, it completely pulls apart not just the nature of the character and reality and so on, but also the idea of movies in which the end denouement of the film is John McClane throws Hans Gruber from the tower, and we can all go home and feel okay about that.
Yeah.
Because if it's the 90s, another movie in which a terrorist takes over a building will be coming along shortly. But, you know, in general, the idea of our mythologies these days are the Western ideals of the guy in the white hat rides into town and kills the guy who's been terrorizing the women wearing the black hat and shoots them in a gunfight and leaves. And we've kind of been rinsing and repeating that story. And we've also woven that story into our notions of the military and America in general, or America has, not so much the people, but America has, the marketing people have, the politicians have, and just the way this dissects that without being ponderous and twatty, but with being like realistic and cool is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I agree. The bit when he after he beats the shit, like your diehard Bruce Willis Hans Gruber analogy, when he drives back from beating up the thugs, which is like a cool like sort of a cool scene in the out of context of the movie, but like what actually happens, it's cool. When he gets back and sits in his car and weeps afterwards, and it's not clear, is he weeping because he burned the picture? Is he weeping because he's afraid? He's like shaken up by the whole experience. Is he weeping because he wishes he didn't have to do it? Like those things seem all to be true, but yet you're not. Like you're left with this puzzle. And so there's this thing that in any other movie it would be like, cool, you pushed him to the brink and you underestimated him and he fought back and he made you look like fools, like chumps in the street. He made you look, and then he drives back and weeps, and you don't know where to put yourself.
Yeah.
So instantly you're in a movie where cool things, like stories, ideas like that have consequences, and they're not just ends to themselves. They're not just feel good about this, like you say, good guy, cool bad guy, so we can feel good about that. It's like all this, everything. That's why it felt like really vital for now, right. Like the world we live in now. It's like everything is like all we are now is living in a world of consequences, right?
Right.
Everything is consequence. None of it's like, I think we should do this thing. It's like, what are the consequences of that thing we did?
Right.
Like 5 years back or 10 years.
Well,
everything is fucking consequence. And trying to live with all the consequences of everything that's ever happened in Western civilization since Jesus is why everybody's going insane now.
Right.
And I said, I have a movie that says, well, of course these things have consequences. And of course they're difficult to deal with. And the best thing about the movie is that the conclusion that it comes to is that the only thing you can do is learn to live with your regrets and learn to live with yourself, and the fact that you have made bad decisions, that you are flawed, that you are not perfect, that you are not Superman. He's a comic book hero, is what he is. Like they even doesn't Ron Livingston sort of basically call him a comic book hero at some point, something like that. And for that,
because he says about being invulnerable to the virus that Bigfoot has, and he says...
No, he's talking about when his granddad told him the stories of like...
Oh, right.
I'm sure he could be like a comic book hero. And the idea, especially like now when all we're given as heroes is comic book heroes, like, hello, I'm a god, I'm a, whatever. And like there's no, they hint at consequences, but it's always like, oh, I feel bad for dropping a building on those people, but oh no, here's another building, and this one's even worse, so it's okay, you know what I mean? It's all like, just like hinting at, fainting at shit, just for the sake of fucking filling up the screen. But this is like, doing these things has consequences, and all you can do is live with the consequences. The pain and the trouble everybody's having in the world right now is their inability to live with consequences.
Right, and also because there is a fundamental misunderstanding right now in reality that humans are fallible, messy, confused, weird, different, have fetishes, have whatever. Like, literally, like, people find out that, human beings, especially ones that they thought were really great, weren't so great. and they have the same reaction to someone who's a mass rapist, to someone who just turns out to be a bit shitty around their PA, and they have exactly the same reaction because there was a fundamental understanding in culture that people were ready to accept other people as fallible. Like, we grew up on lots of things that told us how, like, you look at all British humour is about the fallibility and the idiocy of man, all of it. And couple that with, you know, Bill Hicks routines that we listened to as teenagers about we're virus with shoes and I'm done with all this pat on the back, isn't humanity great bullshit. We kind of grew up with that cynicism, sarcasm, and also realism of what humanity is. Apparently a lot of people didn't, because the moment they found out that a few people were scumbags, everyone just fucking lit the world on fire and went insane. But on top of that, going back to kind of what you were saying about it also being important to now, is that the other thing that bugs me so much about present existence is that everyone is going on about Trump, not like so much the supporters and not so much the ideas he represents, and not so much like why it happened or why it's still happening or why it could continue to happen. Although there are those people who are. In general, though, most media, most people, most conversations you have are focusing on the man himself. And I understand why, because he's an utterly repellent fuck. But I've said for a long time, whether you're saying nice words about him or bad words about him, you're inflating his balloon. All press is good press. He just fucking feeds off it. And I've said that for a long time, the way to kill this insanity would be actually is instead of reporting his mindless wank on Twitter every day, but instead report actual news, report actual factual stuff that is going on and solutions to it, and solutions that are going on right now in a bipartisan, non-idealistic way. So don't be like, oh, Elizabeth Warren's going to come and save us. Be like, these are the lawyers, and these are the grassroots political movements, and these are the boots on the ground, or whatever, that are going to come and save us, etc., etc. Like, report the actual stories, don't idolize the guy, because what the movie says that is so true is that, and what I have heard about this current situation is that he didn't give voice to it. Trump didn't give voice to it. He allowed others to feel safe in their voice. And in the way that he talks about in the movie, Sam Elliott talks about, well, I just killed a man, the idea had already spread, is prescient for today, because it's the idea that those philosophies, those ideas, those bigotries that we find abhorrent have always been there, are there in humanity, continue whether you kill a man or don't kill a man. Continue whether you drop a nuke or don't drop a nuke. Those things continue to grow and spread and whatever. And it's how we deal with that, and it's how we react to that, and it's how we try and learn from that that's more important than just get the man, you know, tie him up and set fire to him or whatever it is. And yeah, so you can really, it's also a neat 90 minutes. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome.
No, that's
like
true. It's
just a good 3-act structure. And for something like that to spur so many ideas and so much conversation and, like you say, haunting images. Like, it's shot so well.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
So well. And the other thing that's really great
also the house that he lives in, that's the house I didn't even know, but like, I've been wanting to move out of the city and move to a house, like a small American town. He lives in the house I want to live in. And I didn't even know that that's the house I want to live in. But that's the house I want in that town.
Right.
And I know that's not like, it's not supposed to be like that. It's just,
those houses,
it's incredibly evocative somehow. And even like the little couch and the little table that he eats at, and the TV and the remote being far away, and it's all very, I don't know.
It's realistic.
Evocative.
None of it is, it's evocative and artistic, but it's also realistic, because it's not so grimy and run down that, you know,
right.
he's living in a Gilliam night.
Yeah.
And it's not so, like, wealthy or big as to assume that a guy living on a pension can afford some big
Yeah,
house.
you're right. It's not
very realistic.
Yeah, it doesn't. It looks lived in. You're right. That's what it is. The house looks lived in. It doesn't look like, from like a procedural show on ABC where it's like, clearly this is a flat we borrowed from some upmarket real estate lads. We've got it for the afternoon, so chop, let's film this. Yeah. Put a picture there and a see-through blue vase there. Bob's your uncle, lawyer's house, right? But equally, it's not like, oh, it's surreal. Look at the dirty dishes in the sink and the filth and the mud. It's just like, this is a house where a guy lives and has lived for a long time. And it's beautiful. And it's a really beautiful movie.
It's really well shot. It's mostly practical effects. They even go as far as to do matte paintings, which is amazing that they did matte paintings in a low-budget film shot in Massachusetts about a guy who killed Bigfoot. But they do matte paintings. The Bigfoot is a guy in a suit.
But what a great mask.
Really great.
Right. Sort of looks human for a bit, and then you're utterly terrified.
Yeah. Some wonderful special effects, a great soundtrack, great score. I mean, it's 5 stars for me. I couldn't really find fault in it. I mean, some people may watch it and find some bits a bit slow, I guess, but that's about it. Like in terms of criticism, that's about all I can throw at it.
Yeah, and even then, I feel like that's time to think.
Right.
Like of what's been happening and where we are and what's going on.
And I love how he does the Larry Cohen thing of even side characters have characters. Yeah. So like the dude and his son in the barbershop.
Yeah, they were great.
The guys who interrupt him when he's maybe going to propose, that couple. Like there's whole stories woven in there. And you never see those people again, but like you're aware of a reality. The quintessential Larry Cohen thing is the guy who gets eaten by the giant flying prehistoric lizard in Q the Winged Serpent, who is working on a building site, is like bullied by the other builders. His wife possibly is having an affair with someone else. He's had a shitty packed lunch. He has like a little character before he gets eaten, you know what I mean? And that's like the quintessential Larry Cohen thing to do. Everyone has a thing. And that happens in this film as well. I can't if it plays at a cinema near you or if it comes on streaming, watch it immediately. But I would urge everyone to go to the theatre and see it because it really
I'd love to see this in the cinema.
Some incredible vistas.
I would love to see this in the cinema. I do. I almost feel bad that I had to watch it with your stupid name on it the whole way through.
It did have my stupid name on it the whole way through. Normally it says After Movie Diner on it, but it said Jon Cross in this one.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love.
Yeah, I know. I knew you would.
Yeah. Because I'm watching it the whole time and I'm being like, it looks like Sam Elliott, but it says Jon Cross. So maybe I killed Bigfoot. But no, a tremendous movie and well worth a watch. And please do support it when it comes out on February 8th.
It could be the Trust of 2019.
I mean, I don't see it being beaten this year for the best movie already.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. It does feel like one of a kind. It feels like the kind of thing that you, me, and John might have seen when we were 15 and never ever forget. And
by the way, Sam Elliott has been nominated for an Oscar for A Star Is Born, which I watched recently. An utterly pointless film. A completely and utterly shallow and pointless film. I watched it with utter disbelief as to why this was getting any sort of praise whatsoever. It has literally zero things to say about anything. Sam Elliott is good at it, but he's in about 3 scenes and says about 5 words. He's really good at it, and he does deserve the Oscar. But he deserves the Oscar for this film. And if he gets up on that stage and wins an Oscar for A Star Is Born, I will be giving him the Oscar in my mind for this film. Yeah. Because his performance in that, I have not seen a better leading man performance in a long time. It was really impressive.
Yeah, I remember thinking, almost as soon as it was happening, thinking, this guy must have been over the moon to get Sam Elliott. He's just completely perfect for this, because it's not just, you get Liam Neeson and whatever, and old man who's now
Liam
acting
Neeson
whatever.
as Snowplow Killer,
right, which we have to go and see.
In Man Who Kills Drug Dealers with Snowplow.
Right.
Just so that people don't get all outraged and start, I don't know, attacking me on Twitter or assuming we're racist because we want to go and watch a Liam Neeson film. This episode was recorded before the now infamous Liam Neeson interview. So that, I mean, I don't know. I just put a warning in there just so that some of you don't flip out or whatever it is you do these days. Listen to earlier parts of the episode where I discuss quite succinctly how people nowadays have no ability to seemingly deal with human fallibility because we're still living in it. It just never ends. Anyway, back to the episode.
But no, I guess my point is you could, the whole casting old man as whatever is a thing, but this was something else. It was had to...
Well, it couldn't have been a young pretty man. There's just no way.
No, but I'm not saying it. No, but it couldn't have been anybody except Sam Elliott. It had to have a certain cowboy feel to it. Not just I'm an old man. He doesn't look like I was an action star in the 80s or I was a big deal in the 70s, whatever. He looks like I was a cowboy. I'm from another era of America. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And there's not that many people around who can pull off.
He looks when I was young, I went behind enemy lines and shot Hitler.
But I'm specifically talking about the idea of an American cowboy, an old-fashioned American hero. Now it's Liam Neeson or Statham or whatever, but somebody who could have been stood next to John Wayne or whatever. This is that kind of a thing.
Without wanting to make the comparison, but it's Sam Elliott's Unforgiven, if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Even though Eastwood has continued to make movies for 2 decades since Unforgiven, each one trying to be his next Unforgiven. And you're like, you made Unforgiven. Just leave it there. Yeah, I think this is kind of the movie Gran Torino wanted to be. Only Gran Torino is just horribly racist for no reason. They're he's old, so he's probably racist. Whereas Sam Elliott in this movie is he's old, but he has a brain, so therefore he's not racist, he's not awful. In fact, he regrets killing someone that everyone says they would line up to kill baby Hitler, and he regrets killing adult Hitler.
Yeah.
And with that, thank you ever so much, Jim. It has been a pleasure to spend all evening talking to you.
Well, it's been fun. Well, I've enjoyed the chicken and waffles, and I enjoyed particularly feeling important enough to watch a screener.
Yeah, but also,
your name on it.
I urge people to listen to not only this show, obviously, but Jim's appearance on Booth Talk.
For my Hammer
Horror Booth Talk, and later in the month, an episode where you'll talk about your book.
Yes, I will.
My
book of poetry, which is available now on Amazon.
Which you will have heard.
If you like this kind of movie, you should pick up the book because it's sort of kind of.
Yes, definitely. And there will be a trailer for the book on this episode.
Cool.
This will be the first episode to feature the Richard Ings.
Oh, brilliant. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, man. Wicked. Aces.
The episodes of Booth Talk, 2 of which, one will feature Jim talking about Hammer Horror and the other will feature Jim talking about his book of poetry, will be up next week and later in the month, respectively. We thought it much better to get this episode out on the release date of the movie and then focus on the interviews next week and towards the end of the month. So, look forward for those on Booth Talk and lots of other good stuff at aftermoviediner.com, especially Lisa Gullickson's Sundance reviews. Yes, we have a reporter who went to Sundance, so check out her reviews on the website and lots of other stuff over at aftermoviediner.com.